Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Franchise Spotlight. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about 2008's Quantum of Solace. This movie was directed by Mark Foster, again, starring Daniel Craig. Let's go ahead and get this rolling. So, Quantum of Solace is not good. It feels like it's taking the same approach as the Pierce Brosnan ones did, where it starts off strong with GoldenEye, starts off strong with Casino Royale, and then the next movie just kind of dips down. I can forgive this movie just a little bit, and that is because in 2008, between 2007 and 2008, I believe, there was a WGA Writers Guild of America strike, and pretty much all the top talent writers were going on strike because they were claiming that they weren't getting paid enough and they weren't being done right by the Hollywood system. So they had these three goobers decide to write a James Bond film, and it's not good. It's not good. You can tell it's all over the place when you watch it. There's a lot of strange character moments in this. This movie does also have a young David Harbour in it, which naturally got me excited once I saw him on screen and I saw his name in the opening scroll, and I was like, holy hell, I had no idea. But he plays the M equivalent of the CIA, so he plays Felix Leiter's handler. And the CIA is doing some dirty work with the villain of this movie, Dominic Green. And Dominic Green is like, hey, there's this guy who just won't get off my back, and shows David Harbour the picture of James Bond. And David Harbour looks at it and goes, I have no idea who it is, and then passes it to Felix Leiter to see if he recognizes who he is. And of course, my boy Felix Leiter is not going to rat out James Bond, gives the phone back to David Harbour, and without even looking at it, he goes, oh, it's James Bond. Without even looking at it. Like, he didn't need a fucking second look at it. And it's just like, where are you getting that information from? Like, how do you just like, oh, that's James Bond. Like, how do you know another intelligence secret agent? I mean, granted, Bond does throw around his name like there's no tomorrow. So it's not really a secret. But still, like, I don't know. It didn't sit well with me. Another character inconsistency that I didn't really like was James Bond is accused of going rogue in this movie, which is, completely fine. But M is the one who sends out this order basically to capture him and bring him in. That way they can investigate him and he can go under investigation to see really what's going on with him. But then Bond confronts her and she's like, hey, they're not going to stop until they capture you. What are you going to do? And James Bond is just like, I wonder who called that order. And it's just like, it feels so mundane and it feels like a child wrote this. And the characters don't feel like the characters that they should be. Like, the M and Bond banter isn't really in this, with them going back and forth. I mean, they do go back and forth a little bit, but it's not to the extent that it feels like it should be at. Also, Felix Leiter is in this movie, as I've stated, but he just has a really small role. He just basically hands off information to James Bond. I felt like a character of this stature would have a bigger role in this movie, but he's just kind of like thrown to the side, and it's really unfortunate because Jeffrey Wright is phenomenal as Felix Leiter. Like, I mean, granted, he hasn't had that much screen time, but when he is on screen, it's just like, yeah, that's a CIA operative right there. Like, he just commands it, and I really like it. I really love his performance in it. I really hope that in No Time to Die, the new James Bond movie that comes out later this year, that he is in it, but we'll have to wait and see. So another problem I had with the script is that James Bond, and I, for the life of me, cannot remember the Bond girl's name in this, and I'm so sorry. It seems like they travel to the middle of nowhere in a car, and then fly a plane, get shot down, and then they fucking hitchhike back to the city that they were at, all in the span of one day. From morning to night. They go cross country to a different part of the world, it looks like, gets shot down, and they hitchhike back, and they're back at nightfall, or around the time of, like, dinner time, night that you go to the opera, gambling, like, 10, 11 o'clock at night, you know? Like, it's just, like, there's really no sense of time, there's really no sense of distance and where they're going. You just are thrown into this world, and you're made to believe that everything is, like, this fucking close away from each other.
Ooh, that's kind of small. Yikes.
And it's just like, that's not how that works. One thing that I really do like that they did in this movie is Dominic Green is obsessed with getting this plot of land for oil, he claims. Really his goal is to get this plot of land in the middle of the desert that is over an aquifer, and he wants to be able to control the water supply. It's interesting enough, you know, we haven't had something like that before. Bond comes back to his hotel room that he's staying at and finds this other MI6 operative covered in oil, and they did the Goldfinger shot, and I'll show you that right now. But aside from that, this movie doesn't really offer a lot to the franchise, and it's really, really disappointing coming off the high that was Casino Royale. Now, I have seen the other James Bond movies, so I do know that they do take a step in the right direction, but if I haven't seen those movies, I would worry that this is going to suffer the same fate that Pierce Brosnan did. And looking back at the time, people probably thought that this was going to be the norm of James Bond, and I do not blame them because this movie is not good. But that is pretty much going to wrap up my thoughts on Quantum of Solace. I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. Definitely one of the weaker films, but thanks everyone for watching. Please stay safe with everything happening, and I'll see you next time.